By the 1820s, the Founding Fathers were gone, and the republic they built was in serious trouble. The United States was expanding rapidly, but it was also fracturing along deep, bitter geographic and class lines. The early system of American government wasn't equipped to handle this tension. Politics was treated as an exclusive club for wealthy, land-owning aristocrats who passed power among themselves based on personal reputation. It was a fragile system of personality cults, and it was failing to hold a diverse, growing population together. The solution came from someone entirely outside that elite circle. Martin Van Buren was the son of a Dutch tavern keeper in Kinderhook, New York. When his family's finances collapsed, he was denied a formal college education. Instead of studying at Columbia, he went to work, developing a brilliant, unmatched ability to read people and negotiate differences. During the chaotic election of 1824, Van Buren watched the national government stall as politicians appealed to personal preference rather than shared ideals. He saw that without a unifying structure, the political process was becoming a race of personalities that left the common voter behind. He began to organize. In New York, he built a disciplined organization called the Albany Regency, which traded government jobs for legislative votes. It wasn't about high-minded theory. It was about professionalizing the local caucus and ensuring his party could exert real, consistent power over the state's elite. The Albany Regency became the foundational software of modern politics, allowing a small group of leaders to run the state, even while Van Buren pursued a national career in Washington. The mechanics were precise: reward supporters with patronage jobs, subsidize party newspapers, and organize mass public meetings. Scaling this nationally, Van Buren allied Northern workers with Southern planters, creating a unified Democratic bloc that elevated Andrew Jackson to the presidency. For engineering this victory, Van Buren became Jackson's most trusted advisor. He served as Secretary of State and eventually Vice President, earning a nickname that reflected his tactical brilliance: the Little Magician. By the time he took office himself, Van Buren had effectively changed how power was wielded in America. Politics wasn't just for the wealthy. Through his use of committees, city machines, and ethnic voting blocks, he transformed American democracy from a loose idea into a professional career. In 1837, Van Buren reached the summit, taking the oath of office as the 8th president. But he had inherited a poisoned chalice. Almost immediately, the nation plunged into the Panic of 1837. It was a devastating economic collapse. Credit dried up, banks failed, and citizens lost their savings. Across the country, people faced starvation and total ruin. Van Buren was a strict believer in a limited national government, and his response was heavily criticized. He flatly refused to bail out the public. Instead, he cut federal spending and pushed for an independent treasury to lock federal funds away from private banks entirely. While the domestic economy burned, the borders heated up. Rebellions in Canada and an escalating territorial dispute between Maine and New Brunswick threatened to drag the United States into a multi-front war with Great Britain. Congress authorized 50,000 troops and $10 million to prepare for a fight. But Van Buren ignored the intense domestic cries for retaliation. He deployed General Winfield Scott to calm the border and utilized his diplomatic experience to aggressively pursue a peaceful stand-down. He kept the young nation out of a costly foreign war and managed the government's ledgers, but refusing to intervene in the economy or fight a popular conflict effectively destroyed his public standing. The internal geography of the continent was creating an even more volatile crisis. The newly independent Republic of Texas formally requested annexation into the United States. Van Buren issued a strict refusal. He knew absorbing Texas would trigger a war with Mexico. More critically, it would force a vicious national debate over the expansion of slavery into new Western territories, a debate he feared would rip his party apart. Keeping that debate suppressed required dark moral compromises. To maintain his coalition of Northern Democrats and Southern planters, Van Buren consistently appeased pro-slavery factions, protecting the institution where it existed and prioritizing the survival of his political machine over human rights. That cold pragmatism extended to the indigenous population. He ruthlessly executed the Indian removal policies he inherited, prosecuting the Second Seminole War and overseeing the forced, deadly relocation of the Cherokee, the Trail of Tears. For Martin Van Buren, the preservation of the political coalition was the primary objective. To secure it, he forced horrific and tragic moral costs onto marginalized populations. By the election of 1840, the opposition Whig Party finally figured out how to defeat the Little Magician. They stole his playbook. The Whigs took their candidate, William Henry Harrison, a man born to a wealthy, prominent political family, and reinvented him. Using catchy slogans and mass marketing, they packaged Harrison as a rugged man of the people who drank hard cider in a log cabin. While they fabricated a populist image for Harrison, the Whigs used Van Buren's own media tactics against him. They branded the tavern keeper's son as a wealthy, out-of-touch elitist, turning his own invention, the modern campaign, into a weapon for his own defeat. The tactic resulted in a crushing electoral defeat. Van Buren didn't even carry his home state of New York. The man who designed the modern campaign machine was completely run over by it. But his political career had a surprising final chapter. In 1848, the ultimate party man broke with his own coalition. He ran for president one last time, leading the Free Soil ticket to explicitly oppose the expansion of slavery. After a lifetime of prioritizing the party machine, his final political acts demonstrated a delayed willingness to put a moral principle ahead of organizational unity. Martin Van Buren retired to his Lindenwold estate in New York. He died a one-term president, today largely forgotten in the shadow of giants like Andrew Jackson. Yet the machinery of American politics we see today, the rallies, the party loyalty, the organized voting blocks, and the professional campaign staff is his legacy. He transformed the way power is won and held in the United States. While his name is obscure, every modern candidate today still uses the playbook designed by Martin Van Buren, the man who built the gears that keep a divided republic moving.